Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the January 19th Parking Solutions Working Group Forum. First, we'll begin with a few housekeeping items. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16th, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until March 31st, 2023, this meeting of the Chatham Parking Solutions Working Group is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in the order. And we will post a recording of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. And if you are recording the meeting, please let a member of the Parking Solutions Working Group know. First, we'll begin with a roll call of our members. Jeff Dykins.
Present.
Dean Nicastro.
Present.
Joan Craig.
Present.
Mike Waters. I believe Mike.
Present.
Thank you. Mike is participating remotely. Mary Kavanaugh.
Present.
Gary Thulander.
Present.
And Dee Dee Holt.
Present.
Thank you. Other members of the group are Amy Tagliaferri and Doug Feeney, who I don't believe have joined us at this point in time.
He said she was going to try and join remotely.
Okay, fantastic. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight to share your thoughts on the potential implementation of time limits and paid parking at the Fish Pier and in the downtown area. My name is Katie Donovan. I'm the Director of Community Development for the town, and I will be facilitating tonight's forum on behalf of the Parking Solutions Working Group. The Parking Solutions Working Group was created by Town Manager Jill Goldsmith in January of 2022 at the direction of the Select Board and follow up to its calendar year 2022 and fiscal year 2023 goal to research and make recommendations on parking solutions for the downtown area, including Shore Road, Chatham Bars Ave, Seaview Street, and related areas, to examine a potential shuttle service for the Fish Pier and the Loop, and the potential implementation of paid parking. And again, we just went through a roll call, but I'd just like to identify, again, the Parking Solution Working Group members. So representatives from the Select Board are Jeff Dykins and Dean Nicastro. From the Traffic Safety Committee, we have Joan Craig. From the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, we have Mike Waters. Representing the Chamber and Merchants groups are Mary Kavanaugh, Amy Tagliaferri, and Gary Thulander. We have Downtown Resident Dee Dee Holt. Aunt Lydia's Cove Committee is Doug Feeney. And again, myself, Katie Donovan, I'm the Director of Community Development and the group's staff liaison. So just to go through a little bit about the format for tonight's forum, the forum is intended to be a listening session. The group wants to hear from you before making a recommendation to the Select Board for consideration. The three topics we are seeking input on are time limits and paid parking at the Fish Pier upper parking lot, time limits for parking along Main Street, and paid parking in the town-owned downtown parking lots. For each question, members of the audience, both in person and those participating virtually through Microsoft Teams, will be recognized to share their comments. You will be allowed to speak on each question, and we ask that you limit your comments to each question as it is asked. Also, please remember to identify yourself before you begin. We are asking that you keep your comments to about 3 minutes per topic so that everyone has a chance to comment. And if you would like to provide comment outside of the public forum, you may do so by using the community voice feature on the town's website at www.chatham-ma.gov/community voice, or by emailing me, Katie Donovan, at kdonovan@chatham-ma.gov. We will be alternating between in-person and remote participants. Please step up to the microphone, and remote participants, please use the raise hand feature. Craig Rowe, our IT director, will be helping to facilitate for those participating through Teams. And for those of you participating remotely, please keep your cameras off and your microphones muted until you are called on to speak. So let's get to the first question. We're going to begin with discussion or seeking comment on the Fish Pier upper parking lot. In order to alleviate congestion and facilitate greater parking turnover at the Fish Pier upper parking lot, the Parking Solutions Working Group is considering implementing both paid parking and time limits for visitor parking. It's intended that fishermen with a valid permit who fish out of the Fish Pier would not be subject to these time limits and paid parking. So again, the questions that we're asking, are you in favor of implementing paid parking? And if so, what is a reasonable per hour charge? And also, are you in favor of time limits? And if so, what is a reasonable time limit? So if you'd like to speak on this topic, please, if you'd come up to the microphone, either the microphone in the middle or the.
Hello, my name is Barry Desilets. I own the Colors of Chatham at 400 Main Street, and I am going to read a letter, if I may, from the Chamber of Commerce and the Merchants Association. Dear Parking Solutions Working Group, thank you for hosting tonight's meeting. More importantly, thank you for all the work you've put into this important issue. We agree with you. We have parking challenges in the summer. However, we don't agree paid parking and time limits are the solution. We feel paid and time parking will only create a deterrent to patronize the businesses along Main Street and at the Fish Pier. Paid parking doesn't increase our parking capacity, which we feel needs to happen to solve our parking challenges. We're in favor of the Cape Cod Commission to do their study in the 2023 season. In addition to the questions you've tasked them with, we'd like them to consider the question of downtown parking for residents. There are people who live downtown who don't have parking and as a result park on Main Street. Instead of moving forward with paid parking now, we propose working together to come up with an employee parking solution that all downtown businesses, owners, and employees agree with. We feel the solution will create many parking spaces for visitors and shoppers and improve traffic flow. Regarding the current paid parking model at the Eldridge lot, in the interest of equity, we suggest making some adjustments. We'd like to see an adjustment to the current cost of the $15 fee. Perhaps people pay for the shuttle and parking is free. No matter what's decided, proper signage needs to be displayed at the entrance to the lot to inform residents that a town sticker, beach, transfer station, or recycling means free parking. If after we implement our employee parking solution, it's decided the town needs to go to paid parking, we propose a concierge-type solution, similar to what's currently at use in the Eldridge lot and utilized at all town lots to maximize parking space. We thank you again for giving us this opportunity to speak with you tonight. We hope we can come up with a solution to our parking challenges that works for everyone. We should all give ourselves a pat on the back for what we've done and for what those before us have done to make Chatham the charming seaside destination that everybody wants to visit. Sincerely, the Chatham Chamber of Commerce and Merchants Association. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig, do we have anybody on Microsoft Teams that wishes to be heard?
Not at this moment, Katie.
Thank you. Okay, please.
Hi, I'm Steve Genotti, the owner of Chatham Pier Fish Market. I know parking is pretty tough at the Fish Pier. And for us, it's, to tackle it of signs and time limits, we see this, we all live in Chatham. There's a new group every week. I think there's going to be more parking fines and who's going to pay them, people park wherever. It's definitely a huge impact on our business at the Fish Pier because we only have a couple spots down below and the down below is really for the fishermen, and then the deckhands park up top. So in the big picture, there's really not a lot of spaces, and I've come up with solutions for my employees. Park at my house, have another property, and so we have them bike to work. For us, we have a lot of customers come in and out. To have a parking, pay for a parking, it's really, for us, it's a huge impact for us, you know? And I appreciate him up here and all the hard work that goes into it, but I do feel that that's some of the beauty of Chatham is that, you know, we have guests come in and out and they can park wherever they want to park, and you don't really, that's the part of it. You know, we have a lot of vacationers here, you know what I mean? We don't want it to feel like a city, you know? But I'm, you know, not for the paid parking at all. And if there's another solution to buying more land, to trolleys, to, you know, satellite parking, I would think that would be a thing. Make a trolley, you make the money off of that, you know? So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Greg, is there anybody online that wishes to speak at this point?
No, not at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Paula St. Pierre. Along with my husband, Paul Avalar, we own the Beachcomber Boat Tours, which runs a shuttle service from the Fish Pier over to North Beach Island. We have had this business going into our 25th season, which we are permitted by the town of Chatham to run from the Fish Pier to North Beach. So I feel like out of all the people that are going to be the biggest losers in this, I feel like my business is going to be, because my people are using it, my customers are using it as a way to go to the beach, and they're not going to spend an hour at the beach. They may spend a half a day, they may spend a full day. And if you start having paid parking, time limits, that is completely not part of my business model plan or how I can possibly even make any money down there at the Fish Pier. Just want to kind of go over a little history. Has always been a shuttle service for almost 50 years here in Chatham, starting with Art Gould that used to run his shuttle service. First starting at Andrew Harding Lane, which he actually used to row people across the harbor to North Beach. Then it moved down to Claflin Landing, and then when the break happened in '87, it moved up to the Fish Pier. And we've had it since 1998. There has never been a time that there has not been a shuttle running from the Fish Pier to North Beach. So historically, we've been keeping a service going. Last year, when this group met, and I was informed that there was going to be this paid parking idea, I sat through a meeting, and I was with Stuart Smith, who confirmed that if every single captain or boat owner parked their vehicle down below, which is where they're allowed to park, and every single crew member that is going to be going out fishing parked up above, there actually are not even enough spaces for every single fisherman to go out on their boat. So the reality is those permits are already out there. If they wanted to flex it, they could take up the whole lot. So obviously that doesn't happen. Fishermen don't all go out on the same day at the same time, so they've been able to make it work down there for, 100 years. I feel like the fish market, obviously they're the only other business down there that's encouraging their customers to come down. And even if they had an hour to go and purchase their food and then go either sit at a picnic bench or go over on one of the rocks to go, enjoy their meal, they're only going to be down there for like an hour. And anybody else visiting, whether they're coming, couples, people with little kids, we just built this $3 million overlook to encourage people to come and see what commercial fishing is all about. And if anybody watched Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come, and you built it, so they're coming. And whether they're coming to look at fishermen offload, or if they're looking to, see the freeload and seals that like to hang out down there, you're not gonna stop the plethora of people that are just coming to see that. And they're not staying all day long. My customers are staying longer, along with fishermen's crews that are parked there for the day while they're out working. So I'm completely against it, whether it be paid parking or time parking or anything else like that. I already have a bus shuttle service that I use for my seal watching that cannot be used to add this other service. So I'm actually the only business in town right now that does provide shuttle service for my patrons, for the other seal tour business that I operate. And I feel like I've already made that investment. It's, I have to maintain a bus, I have to pay a licensed driver, I have to have an enormous liability insurance on that. So, to now, expect somebody to then provide that same kind of service for any kind of fish pier, I wouldn't even be able to keep the service running. It would be a zero, gain there. So anyways, I'm against it, every which way you cut it. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your input. Craig, is there anybody on Microsoft Teams that would like to be heard?
Nope, not at this time.
Anybody else in the audience that would like to be heard regarding the fish pier? Okay, we are going to move on to the next question, which is parking on Main Street. So again, in order to alleviate congestion and facilitate greater parking turnover, the Parking Solutions Working Group is considering a recommendation to the Select Board on imposing time limits along Main Street in the downtown area. Parking on Main Street would remain free, but time limits would be enforced. And so the question is, are you in favor of time limits? And if so, what is a reasonable time? So anybody that would like to be heard, please come up to the microphone or raise their hand.
Hi there. I'm Nicholas Heaney, co-founder and artist in residence at Art Nova Gallery on Main Street. And in my business, I'm going to say I'm against time limits on Main Street. And I just want to say my business relies on people looking at artwork and spending a lot of time doing that. And I think time limits might interrupt that process. So I'm against them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Craig, is there anybody online that wishes to be heard?
Not at this time.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else in the audience wish to be heard? Thank you.
Good evening, Shane Coughlin, Mayflower Shop. I'm not in favor of time limits on Main Street. And could I ask a question? I saw the chief of police here. How do we plan on enforcing that if that was something that would be implemented?
Sure, that is something that the group would have to consider, the group in their recommendation to the select board, and then the select board would have to consider during the time.
Have you gotten that far at this point?
We have not gotten that far at this
Okay.
point in time. We're asking the question, getting the input, and then the board will, at their next meeting, or the working group at their next meeting will discuss what they've heard tonight, and in their recommendations, or then formulate a recommendation to the select board. So we have not gotten to the point of enforcement at this point in time, but if Chief Anderson is willing to comment or would like to comment on it, he's welcome to. But again, we have not gotten to that point yet. We're just in the exploration stage.
Thank you, Shane. Everybody, Mike Anderson, Chief of Police. Real simple, it is very difficult currently to enforce timed parking on Main Street. We have to obey a traffic ordinance and traffic rules that have been in place since 1956. And I believe there is a plan, hopefully in the future, to update that traffic plan. However, for the violations to be considered official, they have to be posted. and they have to be posted conspicuously. We don't have that. And while I have the chance to address the audience, in some other areas of town, back in the day, the police department used to chalk or mark the tires. That practice in some court systems, including Massachusetts, is now considered unconstitutional, and it's considered an illegal search. So we have shied away from chalking or marking vehicle tires. So absent of some type of ticket, placard, or some type of system in place that would verify that a vehicle was parked over a time limit, we're really limited to our enforcement of that.
Okay. So if you did want to put time limits on it, is it safe to say we're not prepared to enforce that?
All I would say as far as the enforcement procedure, whatever parking solution that they come up with, whether it's signage or a vendor, the enforcement piece really hasn't been discussed yet, but currently, the same rules apply. We just don't enforce it
Okay.
as it is now.
So again, just my opinion, if this was something that was gonna try to proceed, I would say a lot of that would have to be vetted before you even got to the point of considering it. It just doesn't sound like there's a mechanism in place to handle that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Hamilton, owner of Chatham Jewelers, 532 Main Street. We've been there since before the ordinance, so I guess we were probably part of the problem down there. I am also against time limits for the very reason that the chief mentioned. You're going to have signs everywhere. If you can't chalk it, that means you're going to have machines that'll issue coupons everywhere. Even if it's free, you're going to have a time coupon so that the extra police that are hired for the summer to cover that can check those extra coupons. That's the only way to enforce it. And then you're going to have a cost figure that the selectmen are going to say, okay, it's just like when a hospital gets a new piece of equipment. They put a bulletin on or they put a sign on the bulletin board that says, oh, our new such and such ray scanner cost us $500,000. That means we have to use it 8 times a day in order to make it pay. If our new system for trying to get a turnover on Main Street every 3 or 4 hours costs us $500,000 a year, which is probably light money for personnel and systems and everything else, that means we have to issue X number of tickets in order to make it cost effective. Otherwise, it is cost us too much to try to enforce to get a turnover, and it's just making too much administration. It's too much problem, or it's a heck of a lot of visual pollution because you're going to have a 3-hour limit or 4-hour limit parking sign every 50 feet so that it's conspicuous, or somebody will challenge the fact that they didn't know that's what it was. I don't think it works. I think it's more cost than it's worth. The solution is creating more parking spaces. The experiment at the Eldridge lot of having concierge parking has created far more spaces than there would be there if there was not concierge parking in the summertime. That formula can work to create more parking, which alleviates the problem of the turnover on Main Street.
Thank you. Greg, I see one person online with their hand up.
Yeah, Katie, we actually have 3 who would like to speak on the matter. I'll start, and I apologize for the pronunciation, but Bob Warshafter, if you can unmute and speak. Thank you.
Great. Yes. I'm sorry, I just got a call at the very same time. Listen, I'm calling and speaking as the chair of the Energy and Climate Action Committee, and I just want to make a few points about the traffic and the environmental impact of that traffic in downtown during the summertime. It is not, in my mind, a solution to put in more parking down there. It is a solution to put parking in remote areas and bring people down there, because we will reduce the amount of driving around and around looking for a parking space that occurs every day in the summertime, and actually causes for me a total ban on going downtown in the summer because of the traffic that is already there. I do encourage this committee to work on figuring out trolley solutions, remote solutions that will encourage people to park and avoid the hassle of parking downtown. Not as a penalty, but as a much easier way to have access to downtown. Getting more cars off of the road down there will make it safer for people, and it certainly will be an environmental enhancement. And I'm curious as to, no one has mentioned a parking permit kiosks that they have all over this country and all over Massachusetts, where you go to a kiosk, you put your credit card in, you get 3 hours or 4 hours of parking, and you put the sticker back on your car. No big expenses, but a big money generator that will also encourage people to go to the free parking and the shuttle instead of having to pay for it. So I want you to consider some of those things in what you're trying to do here, and I encourage you to come up with solutions that are both allowing the access to downtown without necessarily having all the cars there. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig, why don't we take another online participant?
Yep, we have two more that wish to speak. Stephen Buckley, if you could unmute and speak. Thank you.
Yes, Steve Buckley. I wanted, it sounds like some people are concerned that something might be proposed without further opportunity for feedback. Tonight, of course, is about input, providing input on a general idea. So if it could be made clear that there will be an opportunity to comment on any proposal before it's adopted, then I think that will clear up things like, how does this actually happen, and not discuss particulars at this point of time before the working group actually proposes some particulars. So just make it clear that there'll be another opportunity to provide input in the form of feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. And yes, this group is seeking input tonight and will consider the input received at a future meeting. At a point in time, they will make a recommendation to the select board, and there will also be another opportunity for public participation and public comment during that time period. So I just wanted to make that clear. And Craig, we have another online participant.
Yeah, we have Dave Ferrer. Unmute and go ahead. Thanks, Dave.
Hi, Dave Ferresi. I'm the founder and co-owner of Gustari on Main Street. And we originally had our location at 425 Main, so I'm familiar with the lower side of Main Street. I served on the parking committee several years ago, so I had some experience there. And now we're in the Mayflower Retail Complex at 461 Main Street, which is basically just adjacent to Chatham Bars Ave. And so we've been able to see the difference on the lower side and on the upper side. I think we are not in favor of charging for parking on Main Street. We've been, as a family, we've been coming here since the 70s, and we think to continue with the meandering ambiance of Chatham Village, it's very important. I think we should explore every opportunity to avoid charging for parking on Main Street. Number one, I think stickers for employees that would use the lot, like the Eldritch lot, or use the community center lot would be important to allocate, because some of our employees who come in at 10 o'clock in the morning, they might park in the, they might use not the Eldritch lot, but they might also use other lots in town that could be used for shoppers or restaurant, or people at the restaurants, like behind, like a popular place for a lot of employees is behind the Squire. So stickers for employees, specifically for employees that could be used at lots, would be very important. I would think that would be helpful at the Eldritch lot to find out annually how many employees are using that lot. To remove employees from parking on Main Street is huge. We've tried to self-enforce that as merchants, and it never seems to work. I can tell you that I can see any day of the week, I can see 4 to 6 cars parked on Main Street within visual distance from my shop that I know that are shop owners or people that work for those shop owners. And I believe that there was less than 200 spaces on Main Street before the town made a very good decision to allocate spaces for curbside pickup. And to me, that's been very helpful. So first would be stickers for employees to encourage them to work in the remote lots. Up on the upper side at the community center, on the lower side down at the Eldritch Parkage. I'm very much in favor of shuttle service. I would prefer it to be electric if possible. And I think that's also which would help people use the remote parking areas more frequently than what they do. To me, the biggest issue is traffic flow. One of the things we tried to look at is, could you have a one-way traffic flow from the Rotary to Chatham Bars Ave? So as an example, if you had a trolley, so instead of having, to avoid parallel parking on both sides of the street, which is always creates congestion, if trolleys and traffic could flow one way, they would be constantly dropping people off and going. So I don't know if the street's wide enough, but my visual idea for that would be instead of having parallel parking, you'd have 45-degree angle type parking on Main Street on one side, going one way, and then the other side would be available for drop off, pickup, more overflow of people walking in off the sidewalk. I don't know if that's possible, but because of the size of the width of the street, but I think it would be very helpful. So for me, it's stickers for employees, electric shuttle service to encourage remote parking, and to improve the traffic flow if possible with one-way traffic and avoid parallel parking.
Thank you very much. Yes, so again, the intent was that we would not actually charge for parking along Main Street. We would just be looking at time limits, but we take your comments into consideration. Just a follow-up question, would you expect that the employee stickers would be free, or would they would they have to pay for a sticker? How would that, would the employer have to pay for a sticker? How would that, do you have a suggestion there?
I wouldn't mind it either way. For me, it's not a problem. We offered to pay for X amount of employees to use the Eldritch parking, to offer that to the service.
Okay, thank you very much. Craig, do we have any more online participants at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. How about anybody else here in the audience?
Good evening, I'm Sandy Wyckoff. I own the Chatham Clothing Bar and Chatham Kids on Main Street in Chatham, and also the Pentimento building. And I'm really excited to have the conversation about parking because it's been needed for a really long time and it's come up many, many times. What I would really like to ask is that you expand the charge that the committee has been given, and I realize that's up to the selectmen to do, but it's very obvious that paid parking is too narrow a conversation to address what's going on. I don't think that's going to fix anything. There's a real issue with capacity, and I don't think that paid parking is going to address the capacity challenge at all. In fact, it might encourage more congestion, believe it or not, as people race and vie for parking spaces on the street. Think, if you will, if you've got a paid parking space and you want to maximize the time that you have, but you do a miserable job parking, and therefore the space in front of you and the space behind you no longer exist. I mean, any parking lot that you go into, that's how it works. And I think that concierge parking is a really great way to maximize getting the cars in and really having professional people park the cars and utilizing the space. But that's a much broader conversation than the charge that you have right now. So, from my point of view, it seems as if paid parking isn't really something that anybody really wants. And I'm not sure how it addresses the capacity issue. So I don't know how you go about or what process you do to increase the scope of the charge. Or do you just take this charge and say, well, gee, it didn't fly, and that's the end of the story, and then the whole parking issue becomes not a conversation anymore? I'd like to see the conversation grow and really encompass the challenge that the town has. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Any further? Thank you.
I just wanted to go back to the question that was on the board, talking about getting turnover. I don't understand why we are focusing on the turnover. People choose to come to Chatham usually for the day, and that's what their intent is, to come in and find a place to park and shop and eat and shop some more. And this idea that we have to have more turnover, I think that most people that plan to come to Chatham, that's what their day's activity is to come to Chatham. I don't think that having any kind of time limit is going to make anybody happy coming to Chatham. I mean, I had a store 30 years ago down where Monomoy Salvage is now, and it hasn't changed in 30 years. You have an overcast day, rainy day. The traffic was backed up all the way to the cornfield 30 years ago on a crummy day. It is no different now than it was 30 years ago. You're not going to get people not to come to Chatham on a crummy day. And that obviously is when we see the greatest crunch of people trying to come to our, cute little town. Last year, the parking was banned on Barcliff Avenue. That never went out to anybody. That had a huge impact on my business. But yet, everybody on Barcliff Avenue now didn't have anybody parking on their lawn. Well, last summer, we had no rain. And the one day that we had rain, guess what? There were people parked on Barcliff Avenue. Why? Because that's what people do on a rainy day. They're looking for stuff to do, so they go down to the fish pier and they go and check out what's going on. And yes, you're gonna get a absolute crush of people on a crummy day to a place like the fish pier. But this obsession with trying to get turnover, I just don't understand where that's coming from. And I could go on and on and on. I've lived here my whole life. It has not changed. What I find is that people come here on vacation and they don't mind the busyness of downtown. That's part of their vacation. But then when people move here, and then all of a sudden they get used to the way things are in the winter, and then all of a sudden they are like, oh my God, Chatham is so packed in the summertime, I can't even get downtown. Yeah, that's the way it was even when you were here on vacation. It's just that now you've got to enjoy what what it's like in the wintertime when you can drive downtown and go to the bank and not have to wait in line at the Rotary. And I think that's where people's attitudes change. They come here as visitors, they move here as residents, and they don't like the way the traffic pattern changes from season to season. But that's just the way it is, and it hasn't changed in my lifetime. So, thank you again.
Thank you. Any further in-person participants?
Hi, my name is Crystal McCara, and I work at Violet's at 486 Main Street. And I very much agree with the previous speaker. There's this notion when you're in the grocery store, the longer you're there, the more things you touch, the more you purchase. That's sort of like downtown. We want people to stay there. There's a symbiotic relationship between the restaurants and the shops. People come to town to eat, and then they stay and they shop. They shop, and then they get hungry, and they go to the restaurants. And time limits just seem a little bit harsh to me. I get that downtown is busy, but that's actually a really positive thing. And in terms of kiosks, even if it's not for paid parking, but just to get a ticket, that just seems very, I don't know, big city. My husband and I actually grew up in Provincetown, and my husband and I went there in October for our anniversary. We got into a big fight trying to park down there because we didn't understand the kiosk system. It probably was pretty basic, but it was raining, it was dark, we didn't know what was going on. That wasn't a very good way to start an anniversary dinner. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if no other comment on this question, we will move on to the final topic, and that is paid parking in the town-owned downtown parking lots. And just to be clear, there would not be time limits within the parking lots if it was paid parking. So there would be no time limit. We were only considering time limits along Main Street and potentially at the Fish Pier, but not in the downtown parking lots. So again, the intent would be for paid parking to be seasonal, and it would be free for residents with a valid sticker, either beach, transfer, recycling, or shellfish. And these lots would include the Town Hall parking lot, the Kate Gould parking lot, the Stage Harbor parking lot, the town-owned lot behind the Chatham Squire, as well as the Eldridge Garage lot, which currently is a paid parking lot. So again, the questions that we're asking tonight are, would you be in favor of implementing paid parking? And if so, what is a reasonable per hour charge?
Again, I'm Barry Desilets. My business is down at 400 Main. So since the word Eldridge parking garage or garage parking is up there, I would like to address Eldridge. I have a huge picture window that I look out all day long, and I have people coming into my shop who have just parked at the Eldridge lot and paid $15, where everybody else is free. And for lack of a better term, they're usually pissed off because they had to park. And most of them will tell me, I drove around and around and around and around. And some tell me, I drove for an hour before I parked at that damn $15 parking lot. If people are driving around for an hour at a time to avoid a $15 parking fee, what does that do to congestion in the center of town? We're shooting ourselves in the head with this paid $15 parking lot. And those people who come into my shop, I can't remember a single one of them who have paid $15 and then bought something because they're aggravated. And do you think they're going to go to the bagel shop and buy a bagel after paying $15? And furthermore, what we have to do at 400 Main is we have to be the parking police, because a lot of people refuse to pay the $15, and what do? They come into our lot, and here they come with their coolers and their wagons, and they're going to the lighthouse, and we have to fight with them so that they don't park. So we've caused this congestion that causes people to park illegally, and then we have to fight with them. I'm against paid parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig, do we have an online participant that wishes to speak?
Yeah, we do. Dave would like to speak again. Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, just as a follow-up, I am not in favor of paid parking, particularly at the community center. I think maybe the one only exception might be the town hall area. I don't remember exactly how many total spaces are there, or as long as you can allocate the right amount of spaces for people coming and going to the town hall, I think that's okay. Relative to what Barry just said, when I was at 425 Main, well before the Eldridge Garage was there, many of the lighthouse, the all day long people going to the beach parked at 400 Main. That was very common for them to try to sneak in there and then go down the street. I think that Eldridge should remain paid parking because of its service to Lighthouse Beach. But I'm not in favor of traffic limits, as I said, time limits on Main Street. And we're not in favor of the of paid parking. And I do believe that in terms of traffic flow coming in from 28 from Harwich or Hyannis, if there were shuttles, if it was known that there were shuttles at the community center, people wouldn't go farther than the Rotary. They would basically take advantage of the lot at the community center, knowing that there were free shuttles going up and down the street. So I do believe that would help the traffic flow, not hurt the traffic flow. Thank you.
Thank you. So just a bit more information about some of the other items that the Parking Solutions Working Group has been working on. One of them is the exploration of a shuttle with the parking. Parking would be at satellite lots outside of the downtown area with a shuttle that would run to various locations in town. So that is something that the group is exploring. The other item is that the group has made a recommendation to the select board that we have a traffic flow and parking study done, and we are in the process of seeking a grant to have that study done by, hopefully by the Cape Cod Commission at a point in time, and if not by the Cape Cod Commission, then by another entity in the future. We're hopeful that that parking study would take place this coming summer season. Please go ahead.
So, Nicholas Heaney. I also wanted to say that I'm against paid parking and the time limits. I am a renter on Chatham Main Street in an apartment as well, and there is trash and recycling included in that rental. So I would not have a rental recycle sticker, a dump sticker. And when I go to the beach, I bike down to Andrew Harding, so no beach sticker and no shell fishing, so I wouldn't have any proof that I'm a resident of Chatham. So that would limit me to park in any of these lots. And I'm sure that's a situation for other people living here as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Craig, do we have another online participant?
Yeah, we do. Stephen Buckley, go ahead.
Yep, Steve Buckley. This might not be strictly town-owned. Well, it is town-owned parking, I guess, in the sense that every time I go downtown and I see a line of cars where 3 cars could fit, it always seems that it's like one car, I see 2. Right. And that's because there's no lines to show that there's room for 3 cars or vehicles. And so you have somebody who parks 6 feet away from the front of the parking slot, and another one in behind that parks 6 feet ahead. So now they've got plenty of room, but basically you have 2/3 of the capacity. And of course it's not, there are places where there's like room for 5, but then you see 3 and so forth. So it just seems to me that, and I'm not sure, maybe this has been considered before, I just wanted to bring it up, that if we could show where people could park more efficiently, then there would free up a lot of parking spaces in downtown along, on-street parking. So just wanted to bring that up, and I wasn't sure if it's been brought up before. Be interesting to know if it has. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, Corey Metters, speaking as a merchant, Chatham Penny Candy. Just to respond to the previous speaker's question, there was some studies done a while ago about, utilizing how many spots based on the current markings or lack of markings. And if we actually made official markings, we actually had a reduction in official parking spaces. So this was done by Chief Paulina years ago with, I think it was with Deanna Roofer, with maybe Community Development Director. But that was reviewed at one point in time, and the net result was a reduction in official parking. So not necessarily sure we want to go with less parking spaces, but so it has been looked at.
Thank you. And I think that information had been provided to the group early on in their meetings, and I'll provide it to them again. Scott?
In regards to the question about town lots having, all town lots being paid parking, a way to make that work, the only way to make that makes sense to try to do is if you're able to use the concierge-style parking to make them, all of the lots have more capacity than they currently have. That is the only way to help solve the problem without eminent domaining a bunch of properties close to downtown, which I don't think we want to get into. But if you're able to do the concierge, then you're able to increase the capacity. But obviously, as has been, the precedent has been set with the Aldridge lot, Chatham taxpayers or Chatham residents who can easily get a sticker from Town Hall, even if they don't have a dump sticker already, but there can be parking stickers issued, which is a way to be able to have residents have free parking in any or all of those lots. But the fee for it needs to be closer to zero in order for them to have a chance of competing with the few free spaces on Main Street. So if the town loses out on the revenue, you got to pay the concierge service something to be able to operate, or else you're not going to get volunteers to do that. But the town revenue would perhaps be less. But if you're doing it with all of the lots, you're still going to have a revenue, instead of a $15 a day charge, $10 a day for the entire day, or $5 a day for the entire day. Something that is less of a charge, but it creates far more capacity if you're doing it in every lot. And then you're being consistent, and then you're not going to have people circling downtown for an hour looking for the one free space on Main Street that might open up, instead of paying $5 to have it concierge parked and be able to get it whenever you want.
Thank you. Craig, do we have anybody else online that wishes to speak?
Not at this time.
Okay. Any further comments from the audience?
Hi, my name's Rebecca Hobeck. I work at Jackie's at 595 Main Street. I am born and raised in Chatham, so much like other people, have seen the rainy days my whole life. I started working downtown when I was 14, just turned 40 this year. So, I'm very much against paid parking and hourly parking. Working at the counter every day, we have people come in all summer long and say, I had to spend an hour looking for parking, or, oh, my husband is still circling, and then they buy their stuff and they go to the next store. I don't really understand what the huge problem is, other than, obviously I see an impact on the environment with the cars circling and that kind of thing. But as someone who makes money off these people, I don't see it. They're still coming. They're not gonna come, but they might not come if they have to pay $15, $20 to park all day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments from Anybody in the audience or anybody online? All right, well, thank you all very much for your input. The Parking Solutions Working Group will also be taking written comment through the town's website, through the Community Voice section of the website through January 24th of 2023. You can also, again, email me, Katie Donovan, at kdonovan@chatham-ma.gov. The next step for the Parking Solutions Working Group, they have a meeting on February 3rd at 11 a.m. This will be a fully remote meeting through Microsoft Teams, and the group will discuss the comments that they've heard tonight. I can't guarantee that they will make a recommendation or come to a recommendation at that meeting, but they will certainly begin their discussions at that point in time. And then the group typically meets every other week, every other Friday at 11. So again, the next meeting right now that's scheduled is February 3rd at 11. And again, I just want to thank everybody for your input. I think it's been valuable for the working group to hear, and I think that is all we have. So I will take a motion from a working group member to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. And we're going to roll call out. So Jeff?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Dee Dee?
Aye.
Joan?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And Michael?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you all again for coming tonight. We appreciate your input.
Thank you.